Salam, hello, and welcome to another episode of Silly Points Cricket. My name is Faizan Hamdani. I'm joined, as always, by my best friend Taufeeq Mia. And we are going to recap the PSL today, the midweek games since we've spoken previously. And we've learned quite a bit. We have learned that Multan are indeed the Sultans, that Karachi are indeed not the Kings, and that Islamabad are going to be the up and down team for this year, and that Lahore Qalandars seem to be doing the inverse of what we thought they would be doing, which is relying on their batting rather than what we thought was going to be their bowling. But I think all in all, we've learned that it's a pretty competitive PSL. There's no clear winner, even though Multan's been dominating, but that could change very quickly. There's some 2 or 3 good teams out there. So a really good PSL. So for this podcast, we're just going to go over Multan's domination, the travesty that is Karachi Kings, and on the flip side, we're going to look at can Lahore and Islamabad catch up with Multan, and finally, we're going to look at Quetta and why they're in the news for all the wrong reasons. Omar Akmal on a treadmill. Taufeeq, pretty good PSL, I think, so far.
Yeah, it's been fascinating. I'm honestly, it's been very competitive despite Multan Sultan's domination. I think it's going to be a very fun tournament. I'm really looking forward to a change of venue as the PSL gets moved for the second half to Lahore.
Right.
And see how, if I don't see this happening, I'm not going to predict again wrong, go against Multan Sultans, but who knows, maybe Multan Sultans start going down to Lahore and Karachi Kings start picking up, but we'll see.
Yeah, what's a points table looking like? I know Multan's way out there and Karachi Kings is way down there, but what's it looking like?
Yeah, so I mean, the bookends are Multan Sultans playing 5 games, winning all 5 with 10 points.
Right.
Karachi Kings have played 4 games, and they've lost all 4 of their games. And honestly, I don't expect them to win their next game as well against United, so that's going to be 5 out of 5.
Right.
And then in the middle, we've got Lahore Qalandars, 4 games played, 3-1. Islamabad United, 4 games played, 2-1. Peshawar Zalmi, 5 games played, 2-1. And Quetta Gladiators, 4 games played and 1-1. Which, if I turn this into our predictions, you are well ahead, man.
Yes, sir.
You've got 11 points and I've got 6 points. And for anybody that hasn't watched our prior episodes, basically we're predicting what the result of each game will be. And so I've been losing primarily because of Multan Sultan. So thanks a lot, Multan. I didn't have as high expectations as Faizan did, and that's been working out for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, the Multans, what I should have done was I should have also predicted them to win. Although I still think Lahore can win if they get their bowling in gear, they could be a really dangerous team. But yeah, it's I even won one of the tiebreakers and predicted Imran Tahir would be the top wicket taker.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's coming into fruition. But let's talk about Multan. How do you there have been some really good success stories. Khushdil Shah being the big one, along with some others. But Khushdil Shah is an interesting guy because he went into the tournament. People were saying, yeah, he can't do it. But he has proved everyone wrong. He's like first or second highest wicket taker.
Yep. I mean, Multan in general, right? Until today's games, I think Multan had the top 3 wicket takers in Imran Tahir, David Willie, and Khushdil Shah. But Khushdil Shah, besides his bowling, which has been nice loop, nice spin. His batting, man, he's knocking it out of the park. High strike rates, exactly what we need from our all-rounders.
Crisp hitting. Yeah. No, I've been really impressed with Khushdil because when I watch him, they're also proper cricket shots. There's some slogs in there, but he's hitting not across the line. His follow through is really good. He's playing the bouncers and what's pitched up to him. So he seems to be like the complete package.
Right.
So I'm happy for him, and I think he can be a force in the Pakistan team if he continues. Then the other guy is Imran Tahir, who sort of complemented. If Khushdil doesn't get you, Imran's going to get you, right? And then the last guy is David Willie. Talk to him about David Willie because prior to this, he wasn't even in.
No, he wasn't in the original 18-man squad. He's got selected supplementary, which again gives another kudos to kind of Multan Sultan's selection process, where they haven't gone light. Either they haven't gone light on their picks and their thinking around them, or they've just lucked out. Like Imran Tahir, people would have written him off, but
Right.
he's been performing. David Willie, he's like, oh, he wasn't even in the original 18.
Right.
Got picked as supplementary, and he's like easily
Killing it.
And his bowling is unique, man. It's not your typical Yorker. So what he's doing is he's pitching it on the offside in terms of his line. His length is just short of length, and they're cutters. And he's been tried to be slogged, which is typical for slower deliveries, to be slogged to the leg side, and he's being caught on the boundaries. And these boundaries aren't even big, which shows that this guy, it's not like luck, like he's getting caught on the boundary. Oh, he got lucky. That should have been a 6. No, these boundaries are short, and he's getting caught on the boundary. So, I mean, kudos to Multan Sultans. I mean, I think we akin him to liken them to kind of Pakistan's current national squad, where each person has their roles and responsibilities, and they are all executing perfectly. It's
Well, yeah. The other success story, you talk about David Willie being sort of coming out of the blue.
Yeah.
Khushal Shah coming out of the blue. But the other player who's been coming out of the blue is Shan Masood.
Oh, man.
I mean, not in a million years. I've spoken about how I want Shan Masood in the test team.
Yeah.
But I would never have imagined for him to be doing so well in the T20 format.
Yeah.
And his batting has been pretty, like, not slogging. He's been playing proper cricket shots, playing those late leg glances, driving the ball really well, really good late cuts. And he's been doing it with or without Rizwan.
Yep.
When Rizwan gets out for a duck, he still plays his game. Yep. How have you found him?
Absolutely amazing, man. I'm not going to compare him to Babar Azam, but the only reason I'm saying this is because when you look at the stats and you look at his 4s to 6s ratio, it's heavily dominated by the 4s, which again shows that he's a proper batsman. Not saying that proper batsmen can't hit 6s,
right?
But when you look at his majority of the runs and you see 4s, that means he can get the runs on the ground, which are usually typically not slog hit shots, right? You hit a couple of 6s and that's 12 runs, and they could have been slogs. They don't necessarily have to be proper shots. But when you hit 3 4s and get 12 runs, then that says something else about a batsman. Yeah. So amazing. I'm really happy for him. After I was in denial after the first 2 games. I was like, nah, he'll crack. But he's continued throughout the 5 games.
Do you actually know Shan Masood's backstory?
No, I don't.
So I heard about Hushan, where he comes from, through a person I met at a shisha cafe last week. He told me Shan Masood's backstory, which is quite amazing. So Shan actually grew up in the UK, so he's a British citizen by passport, I guess, right? And came from a comfortable family. So his trajectory was to play county cricket, possibly make the English team, right? That was what apparently was meant for him. But that didn't work out because, unfortunately, his sister, who was older than him, had this rare condition whereby, her brain does not develop, right? So as she grew older, her brain was still the mind of a child, right? So she couldn't do things for herself. She still saw the world through a lens of like a toddler, right? Essentially. So Shan sacrificed everything to look after his sister because I think his parents moved to Pakistan or something like that. So he had to move to Pakistan. So he left all of that behind. He could have been playing county cricket where you still make good money compared to Pakistan domestic cricket. And he started playing for Pakistan rather than England. All for his sister, who unfortunately then passed away around the age of 35, 40, right? So he gave up everything, and while he was doing that, looking after his family, he was supporting himself and his by playing Pakistan cricket, which is not easy to get into, right? So that was an interesting backstory, and I'm really happy for him. But that's a side story which I thought should be shared.
And again, it shows character, right? I mean, this guy has really worked hard, and he's been quoted as saying that he's been working hard on kind of his white ball cricket, picking up his strike rate and things like that. It's been obvious in this series that he has been. So it's not just his test match. I think he wants to play more.
Yeah, seems like a smart guy.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Karachi Kings, or should we call them Karachi Kamzor? The way they've been playing. What have you made of them?
Man, they remind me a lot of Royal Challengers Bangalore IPL team. Not just because of Virat Kohli and Babar Azam and that kind of matching, but they just have a good team or a decent team on paper, but they just don't seem to win enough. For one, and it's always one reason or another reason. This person's not clicking, that person's not clicking, or injuries or one thing. And this time around, what Mohamed Amir hasn't been seen, and I don't think we will because he's called injured now. Yeah. Mohamed Ilyas just got injured. He was there, but now he's not. He's been sent back to Peshawar. Chris Jordan is coming in. I think he's quarantining right now, so that'll be a good lift. But just don't understand what's going on with Karachi. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, mine were like, it was very easy for me to look at this team and just say they're not playing well, right? Because they don't have a good team. But if you look back to when we did our first episode, or when we just break our predictions, you look at Karachi's team, and okay, even if you take Mohamed Amir out, right? Karachi's team, if you stack them up against Multan, they looked exactly the same in terms of strength, because Multan didn't have any superstars on their team either, right? Mohamed Rizwan aside, right? So when you looked at the two teams, you were like, okay, maybe one team slightly stronger than the other, but it would be competitive. But Multan has just completely outplayed Karachi in every single department. And Karachi has just, tanked. So I think it's I think you got to blame the players, right, for that. They're way underperforming. Besides Babar and Sharjeel, there's no one really to talk about. Everyone's just been mediocre, less than mediocre. So that's how I see them, right? And it's really interesting for me to do that comparison between Multan and Karachi, because I think it's a fair comparison. And if the PSL teams were a roti, right? If they were a roti type, Multan would be like this buttery, crispy, garlicky, all the flavors, the ghee, everything, the garlic, the butter, all the flavors would be doing their tricks, right? That would, nice naan. Karachi is this, sukivi roti, right? Like that dry 2-day-old roti, with a little bit of ghee that is Babar Azam, but no makhan, no butter, nothing else, just a sukivi roti, right? That's like the perfect analogy for, when you contrast these teams.
What would Islamabad United be then?
Because you're supporting Islamabad. Islamabad would probably be like a homemade roti. A homemade roti, sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? You don't really know how it's coming out. It depends on the atta that day, right? So that's how I see Islamabad. That's how I see Multan and Karachi. But yeah, just Karachi is just, we'll have to we'll see where it goes from here. But I think if you had to grade them, it's very close to a 0. But the one thing before we move on from Karachi is this thing that's been really annoying me, is this criticism that Babar's been getting. For Inzaman came out today and said, he basically said, if he is playing this way, how will live in? You have to either bat fast or get out early. And I'm just okay. And this is really joy, because it's not just Inzaman who said, forums, I know pundits, but forums, fans have all been saying Babar needs to score quicker. Babar needs to score quicker. I was like, where were these fans when he was doing the exact same thing for Pakistan and winning games, because the team around him was actually also contributing, right? Right. He is meant to play that way. And the criticism that he's been getting is just unfair.
No, honestly, it's ludicrous. I think it's just the typical Pakistani media. They need to up their game, and then ex-cricketers, they've always tried to say stupid stuff to stay relevant. But I mean, you look at the stats, he's averaging about 120 strike rate. His job is to stay there till the end. And he played really fast in the last game when he scored 90 runs. He picked up the pace near the end, and they fell short by 20-odd runs. That could have easily been picked up by anybody else that wasn't scoring at all, and their job was to smack sixes. So blaming one person out of the entire team,
the only player who's doing anything,
the only player that's literally doing anything, well, you could say Sharjeel is doing a little bit as well, but again, it's like saying Messi didn't stop that penalty. What's your point, man? His job is not to be a goalkeeper, so why are you blaming him?
The sometimes some of the stuff that comes out is just mind-boggling, right? So yeah, we move on. Yeah, that just had to be said. All right, let's talk about my team and your team, Qalandars and Islamabad. Qalandars beat Islamabad today, but that really should not have been the case.
No, that just was maddening. I didn't watch the entire game. I woke up midway through. So I think the game was played at around 3:30 a.m. here, Houston time. So a little early for me, but it was maddening because they needed like 50 odd runs from 40 balls, and they scored at an average of 7 runs per over in the last 5 overs. They had like 8-9 wickets left. And even in the last over, fine, you took it. First of all, they should have wrapped it up in 18 overs.
Yeah, 18, 19 overs. Yeah.
But fine, you took it to the last over. You need 12 runs. You've got Asif Ali. You've got Azam Khan. I don't know who else was on the other the other end. But Asif Ali can hit 4 sixes against Afghanistan and all these other people and World T20, and they ended up scratching 3 runs. They didn't even get to 10 runs in that last over. 3 runs
last over.
In the last over. I mean,
yeah. You know what? I said to you after that, when we did the World Cup roundup, the recap, that I was still out on the fence of Asif Ali because he seems to be this one-trick pony.
He hasn't been doing well, man.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing anything where you just pitch the ball up to him, he'll try to hit 6, right? Like, he doesn't have anything else going for him. But anyways, no.
I still back Islamabad United because if you think about it, right? I mean, Shadab's been picking up slack for Asif Ali and probably a couple other batsmen here. I mean, he's been playing phenomenally, and he's really proving last season's moving himself up the batting lineup. He didn't change that. He didn't come under pressure. He said, no, I'm going to stick to it. I've been working on my power hitting, and he stuck to it, and he's been way better this season than last season in terms of his batting. And his
very
bowling.
unorthodox style, though.
Very unorthodox, man, but whatever clicks, right? I mean, he's an all-rounder in the end. Pakistan don't need him to be 2 down.
And he's been bowling great.
He's been bowling great,
Yeah.
unlike the prior seasons, right? And so, Islamabad United lost this game that they should have won. They should have, honestly, beaten Multan Sultans as well. They lost by a few runs.
I don't know.
Man, when Shadab scores 90-odd runs, and you wouldn't have expected him to score even 10 or 15, you know how many players didn't perform in that game, right? If everybody else had even done average of what would have been expected of them each game, that's one of those games that, Islamabad United shouldn't beat Multan Sultans, but when Shadab scores 90-odd runs of 45 balls, they should. It's like one of those freak Afridi innings, right? Like Pakistan can win any game on their day if Shahid Afridi comes in and hits 100 of 36 balls, and I felt like that's kind of what Shadab gave in that game, and they still fell short because nobody else around him did anything.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the case, right? Like, if, there always seems to be one guy that stands up and then you sort of blame the rest. But in those scenarios, I would still say Multan should, they did their job. If one guy scores, then you can't control that. But for the most part, I don't know if I necessarily agree that they should have won that game. They could have. They could have, but I think Multan's is still full value for their money. And then, so moving to Lahore, I said at the start of this podcast, they have been doing the inverse of what we expected them to do, which was we saw this bowling lineup: Rashid Khan, Fakhar Zaman, Rashid Khan, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Haris Rauf, David Wisa. Really good bowling lineup, but it's their batting that has been really their saving grace, and especially led by one man, Fakhar Zaman. Yeah. Is this sustainable, or are they going to lose that edge, and nothing's going to click for them, and they're just going to drop off?
Fakhar Zaman has stints where when he's in form, he can carry it throughout the tournament. We've seen it in the domestic circuit, him doing that, which is why he's in the Pakistan national squad, because his national performance hasn't been as consistent as some of his domestic performances. Right. So is it sustainable? I think Fakhar can do what he's been doing, and that will win Lahore Qalandars many games, but not all games. And so although he might be sustainably kind of performing, I think other departments have to fire, because he hasn't been like Rizwan-like or he's there right now, but I don't see him being the top scorer throughout the tournament. He'll still be up there, though. I think he'll still perform well.
Yeah, he'll probably top 3. But on the flip side, you could just say, okay, even if Fucker doesn't perform, but if the bowling gets going, Haris Rauf, Shaheen Shah, Haris Rauf, David Wisa, whoever else, right? Mohammad Hafiz. Does Hafiz even bowl now? But if these guys get going, then, they don't need to score 170, 180, 190 every game because those guys have the firepower. And that is why I backed Lahore. I was like, okay, their bowling was what's going to take them. But if their bowling's not performing right now and they're still winning games, if their bowling clicks and they're still batting, then I think they're better than Multan.
Yeah. Again, on paper, right? Everybody seems better than Multan, so it's odd. But yeah, I feel the same way about Islamabad United as well, right? Whereas I was like, okay, their batting hasn't clicked the same way I would have expected them to, and their bowling is performing as shitty as I would have expected them to. Right. So they're winning some games. They've won a couple out of their 4. So could they? I think between Lahore and Islamabad, they are the 2 teams that have a shot at beating Multan Sultans next.
Right. Okay.
Karachi, Quetta, no. Peshawar Zalmi, no. So it's really these
Peshawar
2 teams.
has been not great. Wahab's been I think, lacking in the captaincy. But we don't need to go into that. But the one team we do need to get into, and I find quite hilarious, it's like the drama team is Quetta Gladiators. Man, did you see that video of Omar Akmal huffing? And it was like he was being tortured into running. And the funny thing, who took that video?
That's the other thing. Like, why would he have left them? I think it's typical Omar Akmal, right? He actually is in denial that he actually looks bad doing some of these things. Like some of those real estate videos or something like that. Like, he would have been like, hey, why would you put yourself out there like that?
Or his TikToks about where he's dancing and doing cheap things.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys haven't, if it weren't for copyright issues, we would have definitely posted that and tagged it to this video. But Google it. It's literally this guy gets on a treadmill and within 10 seconds he's huffing and puffing and he stops.
You could see the pain in his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very strange pick. I was so surprised that they picked him. It was a slot they could have given to someone else. But then another person who I said should not have been in Quetta. Yeah. It was he could have been there, but if you're gonna pick Omar Akmal, you definitely don't pick him. Is Shahid Afridi. Yeah. They dropped Will Smith and they brought in 2 other players, Afridi and one other guy. Some Pakistani, and Will Smith was doing perfectly fine.
He was, and I don't know if it was foreign player cap per game or what, because I think Will Smith was a supplementary player, just like David Willie, and David Willie didn't come up in these recent games as well after his replacements came back. So I don't know if it's a supplementary replacement thing or if he was part of the original squad. I don't know, but it was odd, and Shahid Afridi went for 57 odd runs in 4 overs.
Most expensive in PSL history.
Yeah, in PSL history. I kind of blame Sarfraz. Why did he give him that fourth
over?
Like, what was he expecting different?
Yeah, Sarfraz, we talked to the last podcast that he was enjoying his cricket, but he seems to have fallen off a cliff these last couple of games. His captaincy has been very, very, very strange.
Yeah. And I think it's catching up to him, this whole pressure thing. I mean, Salman Butt took shots at him.
Oh, yeah.
And saying that he should focus in on his game a lot more than he's focusing on screaming at all his other players. And it's his right to scream at players, right? But then it's not... I would have wanted him to come back on Twitter and start taking shots at
it got to him. Butt. It got to him, right? So
it really got to him, right? He's letting these things get to him, and it shows that as a captain, you want somebody that is secure and confident, right? And he's very insecure. It happened when that World Cup happened, where people kept calling him fat. He was insecure about that. Now he's insecure about this, where Salman Butt, ex-cricketer.
But the one thing I will say is that why is any channel giving Salman Butt the light of day? And I know I'm being a bit hypocrite that, hey, Mohammad Amir, I'm okay with him playing, which, by the way, I'm not 100% okay with him playing, but... Well, that's another discussion. But why is Salman Butt in the studio box? Why is anyone entertaining this guy, right? And it's fine. He can have his say on Sarfraz. If he's there, he can have his say. But he shouldn't be there in the first place. and that to me is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it goes back to Pakistani media, right? I'm not sure how they do their business and why they do it the way they do it, but going back to some of the other folks, I mean, there's Sharjeel as well. He's playing, right? He's been accused as well. Sharjeel Khan,
Right.
But I really put the blame on Sarfraz. He needs to be better. He didn't need to respond to someone, but and basically criticize him, essentially of saying, hey, Allah Ta'ala knows kind of my niyat, or should I really be looking at a match fixer's niyat?
He didn't need to come out and say that. But speaking on that, you know what they call Karachi, right? With Sharjeel and Muhammad, they call it Karachi. A lot of people on Twitter, Karachi criminals.
Oh no way!
I thought that was hilarious. But okay, so that's sort of like what we've seen. Moving forward, do you want to do the predictions here?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's game is Karachi Kings versus Islamabad United.
I think we're both picking Islamabad.
Yeah.
Most wickets. You know what? Babar and Sharjeel will probably play the most overs. You're gonna go with Shadab
For bowling,
for most wickets. Let's go with most runs for the tiebreaker.
Okay.
Okay, so for the tiebreaker, most runs. You know what? I'm gonna go with Babar.
I'm gonna go with Babar.
Okay, fine. I'll take someone else then. I will take who opens for Islamabad? Hales
yeah.
and
It's either Sterling or Monroe.
oh, you know what? I'll go with Sterling.
That's a good choice.
Sterling. Yeah, and then the next game.
Next game is Quetta Gladiators and Lahore Qalandars.
Are you picking Lahore?
Yep.
Okay, fine. I'm picking Lahore. I'll get to first pick though on most runs. I will take for that game. So it's Lahore versus Quetta.
Yep.
Man, it's hard to look past Fucker. I'm gonna pick Fucker.
Okay, so then if I have to pick somebody else for most runs,
You should take what's his face? The guy James Vince. Doesn't he play for Quetta?
yeah. Has Phil Salt been playing yet or no?
Yeah, he has.
He has?
Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Phil Salt.
Phil Salt. Okay, so and then there's the third game.
Third game is
Yeah.
Multan Sultans versus Peshawar Zalmi.
Sultans.
Okay.
Who are you taking?
Sultans.
Wow. Okay, so this is not even.
Yeah, the more recent ones are going to be more like tiebreakers. So the most runs for Multan Sultans, I'm going to go with Babar. Sorry, Rizwan.
Rizwan. I'm gonna take. So this is against Peshawar.
Yep.
So Peshawar. I'm probably gonna take someone from Multan. I'm gonna go with Tim David.
Oh yeah, he's
Tim
been
David. Yeah. Rizwan can't fire every game. Okay, so those are the predictions.
So there's a couple more though, because we're going to take it till Saturday, right? So the Friday game is
no till Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that's the three game predictions.
3 games, yeah. So I still take a 5-point lead into that, but yeah. So that's it for today. If you guys have been enjoying the content, please subscribe. We're slowly but surely gaining viewerships, getting subscribers, and your support means everything to us. Hope you enjoyed the content, and we will see you midweek with a wrap up of what's going on, plus some other interesting topics that we will have waiting for you. Until then, see you.